So I just don't understand Nintendo nowadays. Nintendo is really just pulling the Xbox One here. Again, the Xbox One still eventually became a successful console, but that's only after Microsoft divorced a lot of the terrible choices with the console. Okay, can't afford it at Switch 2? Just buy the original Switch. Well, a lot of the games Nintendo was putting out for the Switch 2, you can't play on the Switch 1. Excuse me. Sorry, I farted. Sorry. Excuse me, sorry. As a yeah, but this is just ridiculous. Nintendo really is this arrogant and this ego-driven. As well here. And I know the Switch 1 was very successful. I love the Switch 1. Switch 1 is one of my favorite consoles ever. Okay? It was, but Nintendo was desperate when they made the Switch 1. Okay? I wish Nintendo would realize that arrogance leads to failure. And I know Nintendo's not the only one that has done this. Sega and also Sony and Xbox. Every console manufacturer has done this at some point as well here. But Nintendo isn't making Mario Kart World for the Switch 1. You can't buy it on the Switch 1. You have to get a Switch 2 to play it. Okay? Donkey Kong Bonanza, also Switch 2 only. Okay? Also Switch 2 only. As well here. You can't play those games on the Switch 1. Okay? Can't afford the Switch. And also I already have a Switch 1. But though, if you want the new games, you have to get the new console. And Nintendo making statements like this is just very concerning. Okay? Nintendo is really just going downhill here. With this here. Yeah. The reason why people don't want to buy, people are upset with the Switch 2 is over the prices. But Nintendo doesn't seem to understand that. Instead, they decided to just deflect and fight the fans as much as they possibly can. Okay? Which I think is a ridiculously dangerous thing to do. Because if you make your fans unhappy, your console is not going to sell. Okay? As well. I know some people calling the Switch 2 Switch U. I think a more better comparison is the Xbox One. Okay? Xbox was saying the same thing about the Xbox One. Oh, you can't afford an Xbox One or Xbox One. First play the 360. Okay? Don't buy a new console. Okay? And the thing is, there aren't really many games coming to the original Switch. Okay? Past, I think, June, Switch 1 won't be getting many games. Okay, they'll be getting a bunch of third-party games, but there won't be many huge games for the Switch 1 anymore. Nintendo is not really making development for the Switch 1 anymore. I think the last game Switch 1's games like Metroid Prime 4, Pokemon Legends ZA, and I think Tomodachi Life and Rhythm Heaven was both probably getting Switch 2 versions as well. Yeah. And yeah, Nintendo's greed has gotten worse. Goodbye.